There have been many great short-lived TV shows that have ended way before their time. There have been many examples of shows that have developed a huge following and fan base after their cancellation. Firefly is one of those shows, a show that only lasted for 14 episodes. Firefly was the creation of Joss Whedon, the creator, writer, and director of the long-running series Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Firefly takes place in the future of 2517, about a renegade crew of the Serenity that is led by a former war veteran, Captain Malcolm Reynolds. The ship Serenity travels through different regions of space, and the crew take on jobs, legal or illegal. In this future, there are only two surviving superpowers, the United States and China, who make up a central government called the Alliance, which has resulted in the combining of the two cultures. As a result, the two languages are blended together, making up the English and Mandarin Chinese language. Firefly has a great blend of science fiction space opera mixed in with the Western genre. According to Joss Whedon, in this universe in the future, nothing really has changed, except technology. This future also has the basic matters we face today. Mankind has spread out and established itself on dozens of different moons and planets because Earth is overpopulated and cannot sustain more human life. The crew of the Serenity occasionally refer to Earth as being the Earth that was. Joss Whedon thought up the premise of Firefly with his friend, who had no interest to pitch the show. Whedon on his own pitched the show as 9 people looking into the blackness of space and seeing 9 different things. Writer Tim Minear was selected by Whedon to serve as the head writer and production head, while Whedon served as executive producer. Minear got to know Joss Whedon while working on the Buffy spin-off, Angel. Whedon was a huge fan of the Western film Stagecoach, which starred John Wayne and incorporated the premise of this movie into Firefly as a nod to the classic film. Originally, the ship had only 5 main characters, but throughout the development process, the list of characters was increased to 9. Whedon wanted to create something for television that was more character-driven and gritty than most of the modern science fiction shows on TV. Whedon felt that sci-fi TV had become too pristine and rarefied. Whedon said, "Don't be arch, don't be sweeping, be found, be rough and tumble, and you are there." He also wanted a documentary-style approach. Fox did not like the original pilot script and rejected it. They rejected the pilot script because they felt that it lacked action. They forced Joss Whedon to rewrite the pilot. Josh did his best to not damage the pilot and its character and themes. The title of the pilot script was The Train Job. Fox rejected the second script yet again, saying Joss Whedon needed to add more humor to the script. The studio never really understood what Firefly was all about and never really liked the show. That is why the show was so short-lived. The original pilot, Serenity, was the final episode aired in Firefly's original run. The network was constantly asking Whedon to make changes while shooting the show, asking to make the show less darker, but they also wanted Captain Mal to shoot more people. Whedon had a number of other struggles with the network, especially with the main character, Malcolm Reynolds. Fox pressured Whedon to make Mal more jolly. Whedon stood his ground.
They felt, they didn't want a long sort of story that took its time explaining who everybody was. They wanted to jump in the middle of the action. That was kind of the Fox dictum was, you're in the thick of it, let's go.
The only person working at Fox that was 100% behind Whedon was a former executive producer, Gail Berman, who worked on Joss Whedon's Buffy and Angel series. She was at that time the head of entertainment at Fox. She was very eager to get Joss what he wanted and get the show on the air as soon as possible. Their small budget given to the series was a good reason to use the ship for much of the storytelling. When the characters did go off the ship, the worlds all had an Earth atmosphere because they couldn't afford to design alien worlds. Carrie Meyer was hired as production designer and built the ship Serenity in 2 parts on 2 levels as a complete set, with ceilings and practical lighting installed on the set, so the cameras could move around more freely. This allowed the second unit to shoot in one section, while actors and the first unit worked undisturbed in the other. Whedon said the design of the ship was crucial in defining the known space for the viewer, and that there were not 1,400 decks and a holodeck and an all-you-can-eat buffet in the back. The ship was beat up and wasn't much, but it was still home. The ship Serenity was digitally rendered by the special effects house Tudyk Studios. The shape was inspired by the shape of the Firefly insect. Tracking and steadicams were used to show the sterility of the Firefly universe. Another style employed was lens flares, harking back to 70s television. Unlike most other science fiction shows that add sound to space for dramatic effect, Firefly portrays space as being silent, because sounds cannot be transmitted in the vacuum of space. In the casting process, Whedon wanted firstly to cast lead actors that had a good chemistry with the other actors. Cast member Sean Mayer recalled, and I think it was very quick, like right out of the gate. We all instantly bonded. For the original pilot, Serenity, Whedon decided on actress Marina Baccarin for the part of Inara Sarah. Originally, Joss cast actress Rebecca Gayheart, but decided she was unsuitable for the role of Inara. He shot her scenes in singles so that it would be easier to replace her. Veteran television actor Ron Glass was cast as the character Shepherd Book. Glass fell in love with the part and has said that until Firefly, he had not experienced or acted in a science fiction or western role. For the role of Captain Malcolm Mal Reynolds, he originally wrote the role for Buffy actor Nicholas Brendon, but his Buffy shooting schedule conflicted with the shooting schedule of Firefly. Nathan Fillion was cast in the part of Captain Reynolds. Whedon approached Fillion to play the lead role of Malcolm Reynolds after Whedon explained the premise and showed him the treatment for the pilot. Fillion was very eager for the role and called back several times to read for the part before he was cast. He noted that it was his first lead role and he was pretty nervous and really wanted the part. Gina Torres was cast as Zoe Aileen Washburn, who was second in command on board Serenity. She at first was uninterested in doing another science fiction show, but was won over by the quality of the source material. Character actor Alan Tudyk was cast as pilot Hoban Washburn. He is also the husband of the character Zoe. His character is constantly jealous over her close war buddy relationship with Captain Reynolds. Alan Tudyk applied through a casting office and several months later was called in for an audition where he met with Whedon. He was called back to test with two candidates for the role of Zoe and was told that it was down to him and one other candidate. The Zoes he tested with were not selected, and Gina Torres eventually received the role, and Tudyk was sent home, but received a call informing him he had the part anyway. Adam Baldwin plays crew member Jane Cobb, a mercenary who just likes to shoot and blows things up. Baldwin said he knew nothing about the show until he auditioned. He also loved westerns and shoot-em-ups when he was little. He put on a grumbly voice in his audition, just like a character in an old western, and they let him go with it in the show. Adam Baldwin also appeared in Whedon's shows Angel in the 5th season as Marcus Hamilton. Jules Staite was cast as Serenity's mechanic, Kaylee Fry. In the episode titled Out of Gas, it was established that she had no formal training as a mechanic, but keeps the ship running. Jules Staite explains Kaylee's character as being wholesome, sweet, and completely genuine in that sweetness. Sean Mayer was cast as Dr. Simon Tam, a surgeon who worked for the Alliance but has escaped with his sister, River, whom the Alliance will stop at nothing to get. Mayer recalls reading for the part and liking the character of Simon Tam. He said it was Whedon's personality and vision that sealed the deal for him. For the role of Simon's sister, River Tam, Whedon called in Summer Glay. Throughout the show, the characters on Serenity fight criminals and con artists, the Alliance security forces, and the brutal and psychotic Reavers. The difference with this science fiction series was that there were no aliens, which were featured on most sci-fi shows at that time. The Alliance officer and soldier uniforms were actually leftovers from the 1997 film Starship Troopers. Whedon remarked that bad guys wear hats, good guys don't. The cast immediately bonded and had a great chemistry together on set. Between shots, the cast preferred to wait in the ship's lounge instead of their trailers or dressing rooms. The cast had a running gag where they would yell Summer Glay's name whenever they flubbed a line or messed up. It began after she forgot her line at the end of a particularly difficult scene. This continued throughout the filming of the 2005 film Serenity. The musical score for Firefly was composed by Greg Edbinson. He stated that he wrote for the emotion of the moment. Whedon's use of music in his television shows has been regarded as filmic. Firefly premiered in the US on the Fox network on September the 20th, 2002. By mid-December, Firefly averaged at about 4.7 million viewers per episode. The show was well received. Reviews were focused on the show's fusion of Wild West and outer space. TV Guide called it oddball and offbeat, and the writing was a good balance of action, tension, and humor. Others noted about the show it was a character-rich sci-fi western comedy drama. The Boston Globe described Firefly as a wonderful, imaginative mess, brimming with possibility. Joss Whedon had intended the show to run for 7 seasons. There was low ratings at first, but the main reason it was cancelled was that Fox executives thought it was just too dark. Joss Whedon refused to change the storyline, so the Fox network cancelled it, with only 11 episodes out of 14 airing on the network. Prior to its cancellation, fans of Firefly campaigned for the show to stay on the air, which involved sending in postcards to the Fox network to support the production of the show. Unfortunately, that didn't work. Bad marketing was also a major factor for the series' demise. It was originally promoted as an offbeat action comedy, rather than a more serious character study that it was intended to be. Writer-director Tim Minear, who was directing the episode The Message, and had the whole cast on the bridge of the Serenity. Joss showed up and pulled him aside and said, "We're dead, we're cancelled." Actress Gina Torres said they had to shoot for a whole week after we got the bad news, which was hard to do. Actor Nathan Fillion was heartbroken when he learnt the series had been cancelled. Fillion called his time on Firefly the best acting job he ever had, and considered this time on the series to be the most fun he's had on a television series. Since cancellation of the series, the show has garnered a huge amount of fans, becoming a cult phenomenon all around the world, and the cancelled show was very lucky to get a film, Serenity, out of the series that was very successful at the box office. Firefly was an original and unique show, featuring Whedon's usual hint of humour. The concept for the show is clever and something very different in a science fiction show, while having a good sense of humour. The show also has the right amount of grit and realism to it, which I really enjoyed. The characters are some of Joss Whedon's most well written, and the actors are perfectly cast. How unfortunate the show didn't go on for another 6 seasons. The network really had no clue what made a good show. Firefly had so much appeal, and still today has a very loyal fan base. They even got a hit film, Serenity, out of the series. I love Firefly for its energy, humour and heart. My name's Jonathan, thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And feel free to support me on Patreon.